Welcome to Judgment Infrastructure Podcast. This is not a show about trends, it is a show about structure. Here we apply the 2080 rules and root cause thinking to business system, authority building, and civilization level design. Today's questions: why do most podcasts fail within 12 episodes? Not slow down, not pivot, fail. Let's begin. Part 1. What most people see. The surface level. Most people believe podcasts fail because of lack of motivation, low downloads, poor marketing, bad equipment, no audience growth. This is the visible 80%. But we are not here to analyze symptoms. We are here to extract the structural 20%. Part 2. The critical 20%. After studying dozens of failed podcasts, here is the 20%. They launch activity without doctrine. No thesis, no positioning, no structural repeatability, no intellectual architecture. They had enthusiasm. They did not have infrastructure, and infrastructure always outlives enthusiasm. Part 3. The 5 whys root cause analysis. Let's apply 5 why. Why 1. Why do podcasts stop around episode 12? Because momentum dropped. Why 2. Why does momentum drops? Because effort feels heavy. Why 3. Why does it feel heavy? Because every episode required reinvention. No fixed structure, no repeatable model. Why 4. Why is there no structure? Because there was no doctrine defined before launch. The host started speaking before deciding what they stand for. And why 5. Why was there no doctrine? Because they thought podcasting was content creation. It is not. Podcasting is authority infrastructure. Part 4. The structural diagnosis. Let me be direct. Most podcasts fail because they are media projects. They are not governance systems. If you don't define core belief, if you don't define core problem, if you don't define core framework, if you don't define core enemy, then every episode becomes improvisations. Improvisation leads to fatigue. Fatigue leads to silence. Part 5. Infrastructure versus motivation. Motivation is emotional fuel. Infrastructure is mechanical stability. If your podcast depends on motivation, it will collapse when energy fluctuates. If your podcast depends on structure, it will survive mood cycle. Authority is built by system, not excitement. Part 6. The 2080 framework applied. The 20% that determines survival. First, clear doctrine. Second, repeatable format. Third, fixed positioning. And fourth, long-term asset strategy. That's it. No fancy intro music, no social media hacks, no guest celebrity chasing. Structure. Part 7. Governance lesson. Before recording a single episode, you must define, what do I believe? that most people misunderstand. You must define, what problem do I consistently diagnose? You must define, what vocabulary will I repeat for years? You must define, what intellectual system am I building? If you cannot answer those, do not press record. You are not building a podcast. You are building a liability. Part 8. Reframing postcasting. Postcasting is not entertainment. It is documentation of thinking. It is a digital twin of your intellectual system. If designed correctly, episode to chapter, then chapter to book, then book to course, course to consulting, then consulting to influence. This is authority compounding. Most people never reach this stage because they collapse at episode 12. Part 9. Strategic implication. If you are listening and planning to start, do not ask, what microphone should I buy? Ask, what is my doctrine? Do not ask, do I grow followers? Ask, what structure will I repeat for 5 years? If you solve structure, audience growth becomes secondary. If you solve audience first, structure never forms. Part 10. Discipline commitment. For this podcast, we will operate under fixed rules. Every episode, 2080 structural extraction, 5 wide root cause, governance implication, long-term strategy framing, no trend chasing, no improvisational rambling. This is structural level thinking. Closing principle. Let me leave you with this. Most people want attention. Few people build systems that deserve attention. If you build structure, authority compounds quietly. If you build noise, effective arrive quickly. This podcast exists to teach infrastructure thinking, not motivation, not hype, structure. Next week, we will analyze monetization without corruption, why revenue often destroys authority. Until then, design before you speak, structure before you publish, govern before you scale. This is the Judgment Infrastructure Podcast.